In 1975, Professor Ahlswede moved to Bielefeld. He got his professorship here, and his first assistant was Gunter Dueck. They met each other in Göttingen already before. Their joint work culminated in the Best Paper Award of the IEEE IT Information Theory Society in 1988, and now he's a manager at IBM.
So, you see, I'm at IBM, and I remember my first days in information theory when I said to Rudolf Ahlswede, I will become his student, or then he said, are you really aware that you are not going to be a professor anytime, because information theory is such a rare thing to research? And if you want to become a professor, please stay with Ulrich Krengel, maybe in probability theory, do something reasonable. You can make statistics, probability, something. But think about in 5 or 10 years you have a habilitation in information theory. What is it worth in Germany? So that was the problem, and I thought some days over the problem, and then I said I want to do information theory, and said okay, it's your problem in the end. And it became my problem in the end. So in 75, I think there were built maybe 20 new universities, maybe 30. There was a revolution in university building. Typical Bielefeld University was built in 75. And everyone who had any education in mathematics had a good chance to be a professor at that time. And I made this habilitation 5-6 years later, and then I had a problem. So, and then I went to IBM. But this was some years later. And I tried to apply for probability theory, and they always said the information theory is in the near, but it's not really what we are looking for. So I had this problem, and then I went to the research center of IBM in the end, and I'm now 25 years in IBM research, and maybe I gave up mathematics in the year 93 about that. Because I made an invention in optimization, and we sold optimization problems to industrial customers and made many millions revenue, and then I became just a business manager. But that's another life. What I'm talking about is my first life. Okay, I'm now maybe another introductory remark. I'm kind of. I studied psychological types and philosophy, because in IBM we have both researchers, managers, and a strange kind of people, sales people. So they are very much different than normal mathematicians, and I wondered about the difference in the population in the company, and we have some ghettos. So this is research, management, and meetings, and the salespeople, okay? And the managers are only thinking. I'm always writing in my satirical columns that these economical people can understand only 3 data structures. It's list, Excel spreadsheet, and org chart. And what you cannot express in these 3 data structures doesn't exist. So, yeah. And the mathematicians or research people are like us in IBM, and the sales people are very strange people who do anything but only for money. You see, I studied all these psychological types, and in these notions, I'm the anti-person of Rudolf Ahlswede. So he's very lively, a lot of energy, and he said always, I'm Prussian. So very disciplined, organized, not chaotic, everything okay. if someone gives me a deadline next week, you have that, and it's still ready today, not next week, but I'm doing everything. I reply on emails in 10 seconds usually, because I'm online everywhere. So people hate me in IBM, because if you say, boss, I've done that, look over that, and then I say I can go for coffee, and after a week the boss say, yet now the next step, but the next step is 10 seconds later, so before the coffee, usually in IBM. And I'm this way organized in exactly the anti-character of Rudi Ahlswede, and I can tell a lot of stories about that, and okay, this was I learned a lot of them, so a lot of the talk is now about what I learned from Rudi Ahlswede. And I'm now a Chief Technology Officer in IBM. I wrote some satirical books on how to make career without working. This is the final management book. I get in soccer, you get a red card somewhere. So I had a very private meeting with my very boss about that book, and I'm writing all these satirical things. And now, so if you could look into my life, I'm the most strange guy in IBM at all. So I'm just exactly at the frontier where you are fired. So exactly there. So I'm trying all the time to make the frontier always wider and wider. And so my books are loved in the public. So everyone is people from all the newspaper are talking about that. And my boss is. What is Scheumann? Foam gets in the mouth. So he's really angry. And the strange fact is that Rudi Ahlswede made me, in some sense, in watching him all the time, from Prussian to something revolutionary. So you can really watch everything what is written on the web. What I'm talking usually about. There are many YouTubes for my speeches now. This is modern now, since 2 years I think. I have my own YouTube channel. You can watch everything. And of course IBM Communication is watching everything in my. And then I have always a new, very private meeting with these people, and because IBM is it's very perfect, 100% perfect, and I'm talking about the real problems in life and management and all these things, and I have a very interesting occupation now. Okay. That's the intro. I think I have just observed Rudi Ahlswede all the years. Ingo Althofer will say another word to that. We watched him. This is allowed. You can just do this, and you come through. So we didn't dare nothing. Introvert mathematicians, and then he did something. And was amazing that you come through with all these, just being in a flow. So another major remark for the introduction is also this long introduction. All the talks always says that Rudi Ahlswede was a kind of difficult character. This is true maybe for mathematicians. So if you see the consequences, if you fire him at university and take him for IBM management, then he is normal. You see, and if you just talk about a difficult character, I don't think you get the real point. If he would have founded a special machine fabric as an entrepreneur selling machines in China, then we exactly fine. So I'm always in these different lives where different characters are the most worthful beings, and this character in a mathematician area is strange, but as an entrepreneur, it's fine. You see, and you have to maybe to rethink him in some sense. So I can really judge about that because I'm under those sharks in meetings, and you have to fight always. And then in this sense, Rudolf Ahlswede was fine. Okay. I start to understand this one. It's not a computer. Samsung. Okay. I have some photos here. I didn't remember the name. This was the soul of the institute. Giro, yes. Mrs. Giro was the soul of the Göttingen Institute. So for all the students, this was in the Göttingen Institute from Ulrich Krengel. He was kind of father. It was really amazing. We lived there as a family, so everyone could come in. Coffee was for free for students. And I was, I think, in the 5th semester when I started to write my diploma thesis. So it was very hard to get a diploma thesis from Ulrich Krengel. It was nearly impossible. It was complete overflow in the institute. And then Sigmund came, Professor Sigmund, now in Vienna, I think. He was really new, and when he came the first day in the institute as a professor, I had just just made my exam for diploma, Germany, and then I said, "This is your first day, and I'm your first student," and he was very astonished that. Why you are here, what semester? It's the only chance to have in Lotzerstraße 32 in Göttingen a diploma, a master's thesis chance. So, and I get it. And then he was a little bit upset. And then he said, how can we resolve the problem? And I said, I will go to your first seminar you give here. I will give the first talk. This talk will be excellent. And then you give me a thesis, please. And he agreed in that. And so this is the history that I came into this institute, and then I lived there for 1.5 years until I made my master's thesis. And it was always a kind of real family atmosphere, and we tried to copy that in Bielefeld in some sense. I tried with Ingo Wegner all the time, so Rudolf Ahlswede was not really... It was fine to have a family, but not to organize one. So, so Ingo Wegner and me, we organized the coffee, and had a family then in Bielefeld too. And all maybe 2 or 3 months we had to go. I had to go. The students didn't like that, to go to Rudolf Ahlswede. They say, please, 20 euros for coffee. It's your turn, please. And laughed a little bit. Okay, and, it's not free, especially not for a professor. we had a big room on the other side, and everyone was coming to us and drinking coffee, and we tried to copy the Göttingen atmosphere at that time in Bielefeld. Okay, that's me. The same, nearly okay. In this year. My brain for 10 years looked like that. It was always typical sequences, and the drawings was so you knew what that information theory was in this lecture. So if you saw these drawings, then Rudolf Ahlswede was thinking about typical sequences and coding. So this was a typical blackboard that time. Okay, this is Jula, that's your official picture from 75. I found it in Wikipedia.
It's for 74.
74? No, you've been there 74, but the picture is, Wikipedia says the picture is from 75, okay? I tried to find L.K. Jones at that time. He was in probability. I hope I find the right one. He was very black at that time, very black hair, and L.K. Jones was exploding in discussions. So Rudy was nothing against him. So 20% of L.K. Jones. He could speak as a real important person, as an emperor, and they had big discussions in the Göttingen. It's very, very loud, and so if I remember any voice on earth, then this one. So it's a very loud, emotional voice, and they made all the discussions. So if L.K. Jones and Rudi Ahlswede were in a seminar, then basically there was a guy who tried to make a first sentence. This was the student, as he said, I'm interested in this theory and this seminar, and then L.K. Jones, I have a different opinion, and then we made basically research. I do not remember any serious seminar 2 hours. It was just talking about new problems, research, and the students just looked around like in tennis games, and was very interesting and very, very exciting. So I learned research at that day, that research is not thinking about problems, but also discussion of these problems. It was in Göttingen, it was really loud all the time, free coffee, and fine. Okay. We played a lot of chess. If you lose against Rudy, then you may think he is good in chess. Ingo Altöfer is much better. I lost all the time. Imre is also better, I think. The strange thing is that I often had a good position maybe in the 20th draw, because I'm thinking about that. And then if I have a good position, then I'm thinking in blitz chess. I'm thinking I have this is my victory basically, because from the theory I won. But Rudi Ahlswede has such an amazing concentration that he wins. So you can just he plays without a king and wins still. So it's very it's amazing that he can really survive in lost positions, and it's very, very hard to beat him. Makes very complicated. He's always trying to make very complicated positions where you cannot really think, and you know that it is wrong what he's playing. You know. And I know that I can better play, but I lose all the time. And it was kind of psychological struggle all the time. He knows that he made kind of... I lost all the time because we made a kind of fight between egos. And he tried to crush my ego in some sense. And sometimes he said, that's a good move, he said, and then he took one of his pawns from the table and said, still winning, something like that. This is just Dueck playing. And we had such interesting things. So, and I have the tendency, so if I know that I have intellectually won, then I'm content, but then the fight begins for Rudi Ahlswede. This is his passion then to win in a losing position. Okay, I lived there for 1.5 hours and then a half year, and then he got a position here in Bielefeld as a professor in an empty university. Was not ready, was just a building. We had a camp in the now Pädagogische Hochschule, in a different one, so 1 kilometer apart from the university. And we waited for the completion of the building, and then we came in. I think in 75 into this building here, university. Okay, '76, this was my first conference. Rudolf Ahlswede tried to copy Erdős. He was a little bit jealous about Erdős. Erdős said always, I give 100 or $10 for this problem, and then you get a habilitation if you solve that. And the most expensive problem was $3,000. This is on prime numbers. Fine. I tried this one also. I wanted to really win the most expensive problems, but it would be fine if you will solve an Erdős $100 problem. You are fine as a mathematician, and you have a life career. Everything is okay. And in the first seminar I had in information theory, he stated a problem and said, so I start like Erdős, and this problem, 100 Deutsche Mark, 50 euros at that time. And I found the solution 1 week later. I came. He said, citation, 100 Deutsche Mark plus doctor dissertation, doctor title. And then 1 week later, I worked on the diploma thesis with Sigmund, with the other professor there. And I said, I solved that, now where's the doctor? and then we discussed the problem, and the result was wrong. So my proof was, shame on me, it was just wrong. And then in a moment he knew the real proof, because Gyula Katona was at that time, and there was a combinatorial result which was published or being published at exactly these days, and you could just took the argument from Gyula's paper into this problem, and then that was it. So he just 5 minutes after finding the error, no doctor at all, he said, yeah, we found the error, and this was my first paper after 3 years of study. And okay, I got no doctor. And then he said, okay, 50 German marks. And then he was very impressed, and then he stopped that, giving money for problems. So for many years it was the first offer, say. So this was my first conference in the 6th semester. He said, you are the guy telling all the public people in Hungary at a Balaton place in Keszthely. I hope I Keszthely at Balaton. Okay, I tried to give the community the proof in 20 minutes in an IEEE conference, and afterwards the Americans came. You should just state the sentence and that's it, and make some charming remarks about that, and so on. No proof at all, and I was very depressed after that talk. But this was my first day as a researcher, say. Okay, this is my favorite picture. It means I'm so smart. Something like that, really happy. He saw that if he made a really good point in a discussion. Okay? I learned, I said what he always was talking to us. He said, was a little bit shocking. Okay, you are now in Bielefeld, you get 1 year's contract, 1 year. After 1 year, you should have finished your dissertation. No other year, 1 year. Maybe you have an excuse, or maybe 80% is ready, maybe a second year, but here, 1 year. Do not waste your time giving lectures. Do not waste your time talking to students. 1 year. And I think I thought it was really hard, so in principle it would be was allowed to have 2 years contract. And he said, no, 1 year, please. No excuse. And I said what the reason is for being so hard, because other assistants got 2 years contracts, and he said, always, look, these clerks there, They have a 4 years contract. You see, you have the first paper 4 years. How many time do you think you'll need for the second paper? Maybe another 4 years? For the habilitation, you need 10 papers. 40 years? Here, you have 1 year, then another 1 year, and after the 3rd year, you will produce a paper every 6 months. This is the true timetable. Everyone can understand that. It's a plain logic, or? We are progressing after this plain logic. So this was the beginning. I needed 15 months. I think I was in the middle. I think Rüdiger Reichuk had maybe 12. I hope I'm right. Ingo Wegner had 18 months. Some people had 6, or Tobias Scheuer, who's worked afterwards for me, 6 or 7 months. So you can go through all the people in our surrounding. We got it in basically 1 year. So the experience was that if today's students have 4 years for dissertation, they do need 4 years. So everyone, I think, needs so much time as you give him. And 1 year is quite a fine rule, I think. I tried this to copy in IBM, exactly this way. And they got it in 1 year. So this makes my success as a manager. I just don't give them 4 years contract, just 1, and they do it in 1, no problem. So the 4 years contract is it's the maximum allowed timeline was at that time. So you could have 4 years contract, and then okay, they need 4 years. And he said always, please think about that. If you have 10 or 20 papers for a professor, then at least 1 or 2 papers should be famous. I said, did you get it? I said, I got it. So why don't you start with a famous paper? Then you are over. So the best strategy is to start just right with the first famous paper and the second famous paper. Then you are on the secure way. So don't waste your time to think about second-rate problems. So this was what I heard all the day when I was in the first years in Bielefeld. The standard was. I would like to hate you for being faster than me. That was the real standard. I learned a lot of that. I try to hire people in IBM which are better than me. This is a good strategy. Management handbook says be able to work with the best people, be able to attract the best people, then you have the success. So this is pure management handbook, and I heard that all the day. Okay, and if you enter a new discipline, just look for the current world record. Never try to go into a discipline just not knowing who the really grandmaster is and where the real world record is. And we have to jump over the world record, that's it. Nothing else counts. Be the best. Have only the gold medal, no silver medal, okay? And the flow is with the gold medal, you know? There's a statistics from Oscar winners. This is serious, it's science. They looked for how long are for the lifetimes of Oscar winners and the lifetime of second places, nominated but not got an Oscar, and they have 5 years less. You have just to have the flow, and so this was an ongoing discussion all the time. Okay, Edward made this paper at that time. We had the preprint there. We one in Göttingen, I think. Where's Edward? Yeah. You discussed that with all the problems, and in this IEEE, this appeared 1 year later when I had my first year. My first year was 75. or no, the first year was 76. Sorry, in my first year, we started to make research on a lot of problems, and this is January 77. So when after my first year, exactly when I had my first year contract, in this January, I got this paper with 39 open problems, and then I read this line. The first two problems are considered to be extremely difficult, and this is the hardest one. This was the topic of my dissertation, and I hated him so that I just was trying to solve the real hardest one from these. And we had a long discussion, very heating up very much one day. Why we should make the attack on the hardest problem, and then another cascade of education. See, this is a problem which is open since 30 years. No one had ever made any progress in this problem. Why not you? I said, why me? 100 people have failed to have a success. He said, look, the computers are there, they are much faster, we have new techniques, we have new probability, new statistics, we have in 30 years we have a lot of new science, and maybe since 20 years no one is trying to attack this problem. It's just lying there, and with all the new science, with all the new computers, with all the new machines, maybe you can solve it easily. That's it. Try. And I said, okay, and so these were the discussions. I learned a lot from them, and I installed everything, I tried to install this in IBM. So, I'm writing now books on burnout in industry and all these things, and I had a very strict Prussian strategy, just walk out at 4.0. So this is the Bielefeld University. If you go down, you can come to the entrance hall. So here you go to my room, V5, and 5th floor. And here's the library somewhere in the 1st floor. There's my wife. And my wife has fixed working time from 8 to 4:30 exactly. So then true Prussian says, okay, to my wife, we work together, so we come in at 8. I was the first mathematician then, all the time. There was only a second mathematician always in the university. This was the rector, Grotemeyer. And Grotemeyer had the first examination always on 8 o'clock morning. So as warm up. And afterwards he was rector. And I was the only one available as an assistant at that time. And I made always regularly at 8 o'clock. I went with my wife Monica. Just in this floor there is the rector, and I made the first examination. I learned a lot from Grotemeyer. I made hundreds of examinations. And I could give a full speech on examination from Grotemeyer. He allowed students to give all the questions I like to be asked 3 days before. And he, in 300 examination, he exactly proceeded this way. She exactly asked what the student would like to ask. He asked. So first question, second question, exactly what the students gave in 3 days before. And you might think if a student is bad and you asked him questions he gave you, then he's better. That's not the case. I have a full statistics about that. It doesn't help. So you can just you can ask the students to give the questions and then let them answer. The result is the same. The best examination I learned in these days is you have to ask a very silly question. Best for math is what is the definition of continuous? or what is a sequence, or something like that. And then you have to write down the grade within 10 milliseconds. So I'm able to do that, so because I was always for examination there in 8 o'clock. So you ask the first question, what is continuous? Then people with a grade A or a 1, they are a little bit suspicious, they look a little bit disturbed and say, oh, he does it really. And I have to fight now to become a grade A because it's a silly question. So they look a little bit disturbed. People who have a grade B or 2, they exactly give the answer. Continuous is very proud. Everything is fine. And people with a 3, they sigh a little bit. It's a relief. It's really that silly question. And then I tried then in all these examinations to give the answer in 1 millisecond. So just look into the eyes, go to my eyes, what is continuous, and then 1, 2, 3. You know, that's it. No work at all. Okay, we had a lot of discussion. Woody came always in and said, on 4:25, please, one party of blitz chess, 10 minutes. I said, no, my wife is waiting downstairs, and said, your wife can wait. I said, no, my wife can't wait, so it's a principle. And he said, okay, I crash you in 5 minutes. I said, no way, so please come in 4:20, then you have a chance. And he tried all the time, so 4:21, 5, he came in, please. Sometimes Trixie called, please come down, and said, we have a very important conference here, sorry, I can't. This was just blitz chess. So you see, and he said, you see, I have different principles. My wife can wait. I say, my can't. And I made a 100% victory, so I just insisted to stay away from 4:30. I made it, we had a little daughter at that time, so sometimes later. And this was time for my daughter, and later in IBM for my son. I had the same fight always in IBM, so I came in 7.5, a little bit earlier than in University Bielefeld, and left exactly 4.30. And this was in IBM, they say, oh, you have half a day holidays. So they try to diss you a little bit. And I made it this way. So when I became a manager, also I said I like people who leave this office on 4:30 when I leave, because I'm giving you 8 hours of work every day, and if you can't get it to 4:30, you are incapable in some sense. And so we had all this discussion. I tried to educate the IBMers still to go home at 4:30. Okay, this is my chessboard. Long time ago, I pretended to work there. So this is the chessboard, and we played in my room all the time. So it was necessary. And he hated always that the room was closed 4:30 all the time. So I have some photos from this is stolen from the internet. We made a real holiday in France and visited Mont Saint-Michel, and then like we stand here somewhere on the land side. Here's water when sometimes, and then here came a guy, and he said, from the proportions, this should be Rudy. My wife said, no, can't be. And then the person came nearer and made some signs on paper, and I said, it's certainly And we always watched all the time, and it came nearer and nearer, and it was because we were unsecure what it is. we have no real photo of that. But then in the end, he said he had no time. He had to further to research. So we had a lot of the things. This is passion. I think I inherited that a little bit. So in IBM they say always I have too much passion. I have to wait for the bureaucracy in some sense. So difficult. Okay, I've heard also some from the theater in Bielefeld. Sitting there, Lohengrin is murdered or something. Tristan Isolde, and then Rudolf Ahlswede wrote down research results. Okay. I did it also a lot of times this way, but never with paper. So I'm not guilty. But I was also a mathematician, thinking all the time, also with this indifferent view. But I never write something down. Never. And I'm very suspicious in IBM because people take notes. List, Excel sheet, or org chart. You have to write down these things, and I never write everything down. So I'm kind of suspicious. But it's better. So there are no jokes about me. And my inventions are always on stairs with a Rolltreppe. What? Escalator. And most of them when my wife buys new clothes and I have to wait, for that. So these are the moments where the best ideas come to me. So basically, and I'm in this sense I'm also a true mathematician, but not guilty because I have no paper with me. So I'm in the same tendency. Okay, just I got some result in this hardest problem ever, so I did it. I was very proud to add something to the Shannon theory. So there was a proof of a specific theorem of Shannon in his last paper on 56 or 55. And I made a counterexample for that it's not true. This was the long-standing problem, and I did it. And then afterwards, I found now I become the world champion. I have done that, and now really won. And then I tried the big theories and the 3,000 Deutsche Mark problem of Erdős and all these things, and I wanted to win the Nobel Prize, and I had no result at all. So the year 78, 79, nothing. So, and the most depressing moment in my career was in 79. Rudi came in. Dueck, is it true that you proved nothing within the last year? And smiled, really happy. And I said, please go out. I know what I suffer all the time, and I do not need any comments about that. Please, no. And he said, no theorem? I said, please go out of my room. And then he said, okay, I go out of my room. And then I never forget that. So if this is the door, so you see, the wall, then there came a head into my room this way. Not even a corollary. And this was the most depressing moment in my career. I didn't forget that from you see, you have it really in your body, so there's the hurt, and it's still there. So now it's a joke a little bit, but I remember the feeling. It's not really hurting anymore. Okay, this is from 78. We had the 40 years birthday, and my wife. This is my wife. She's also older now. She has a kind of skill giving tasks to Rudi Ahlswede. Okay, she's my boss, you know. And she said, please help here. He did. Okay, this is just part of some. This is my favorite picture in True. The small one, this is Sasha. This one. He said always Dueck to me. When we made only nonsense. When he was there, I liked to have nonsense. I made this with my children too, so my son Johannes is only educated by nonsense in some sense. And my wife is not really happy with that, and I try to explain her that nonsense cannot be learned elsewhere. And I am responsible as a father to do that, so I give my real best. And the first trials were with Sasha, so made some loud things, and we started in Göttingen when he was very eager, loud, and did some crazy things, and Rudi and me, we were delighted just that there's loud and something ongoing there. So I'm not a teacher, you know, it's more a trainer. You have to train people, not to teach them. I have a very, this is in America, I think they would have shot me, because in America they are very politically correct. So we are in Europe, okay? We had that on a telephone call with the Americans, IBM, and the American always said, "We need education," means 2 hours call, giving you a hint what the new rules are. And I said, no, the people have to really to have deep knowledge on that. I need training. And said, no, education is fine. I said, no education, please training. And he said, what the hell is the difference between education and training? And then I said within a millisecond, excuse me, do you know the difference between sex education and sex training? And then there was very silent on the Americans. After 10 seconds, he said, okay, I got it. I'm not sure. Okay, this was Christmas. Then I had some years with those signs, all the multi-channels. We made a theory of this. This was the appearance of the papers these days. Then I found the proof of the strong converse of the multiple access channel. I have to tell this story, because it was also a very good success story. It gives light on the character of Rudi, and I had a very disaster with the following story in my career afterwards. That is the second story. Rudi Ahlswede had proven this first result, 71, on the capacity of multi-access channel, but there's a strong form and a weak form. He could only prove the weak form, and he was at that day 10 years trying to prove this result, 10 years. And every year she had a new solution and was always wrong. And this time he had the real right solution, so he was very happy, extremely happy. This was his problem to solve. And after 10 years he got it, and then he wrote the full paper down and was wrong again. I was very depressed all the time. And then in the next weekend, because I heard the discussion always, he told me all the ideas. 10 days later, under the shower in my home, Saturday, very relaxed, I had a completely different solution, which is not really in the theory. That's with a very outside idea, and the proof is about 10 lines. I was under shower, long shower, and 10 lines is easy. So I said I was really sure that the result is fine. And then next Monday I went to Rudi's office next door. Said, Holy King, I got it. Oh yeah, Ian, what your grace? In English? Your grace, I got it. And he said, I don't believe you. And I said, we had in our room, we had this small table, chalk table, very small blackboard. And I said, the proof is so easy, I will manage it to get it on this blackboard. And then I wrote it down and he signed, and then that's it. And he was a little bit shocked and he said, yeah, I don't believe. Then I went to my room and waited. Waited 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, and the next door, my boom, key round and walked away. And I said, yes. He said, yes. And then from until this day, he was very proud that no one, he said, has an idea. No one could solve a problem which he couldn't solve. So this was the exception since then. And then I waited for 1 day, 2 days, and I think on Friday or Wednesday, I don't know, he came back. You have seen my office there with a chess table, came to my desk and say, okay, this is your habilitation. Okay, and then we had the habilitation. Ingo Wegner was the other side of Bureau. He had also enough theorems at that time, and then we made the habilitation in the same day. Okay, I think this was 81. I think in 86, I applied for economics, a professorship in V9. This is V5, so 4 floors higher. And, V10. Hans Martin worked there. Hans Martin went a little bit to the economics, or Ingo Alpha will tell about games, and Ingo Wegner made search machines. Oh, there's an anecdote for the search for the book we had heard. This Jochen Viehmeister, he made this diploma about the book. And then he had his final oral exam with Rudolf Ahlswede and said, what about the book? Is it a good book? And Jochen Viehmeister made the famous remark, it was very famous at that day, he said, the part of Ingo Wegner is without any typos, and yours has a lot. And he was not killed. He came out and said, maybe this was wrong to say. Came on next door to me, and really I was very smiling and said, what do you think you have? It's a great, and they gave him an A, so it was not a problem. He was very, very, very humorous about that. So it was a very famous answer to that. Okay, there was a professorship on economics and game theory something, and I applied for that, and I gave a remarkable, really good talk. And within this talk, I told this story that my most famous result was done 10 days after discussion with Rudolf Ahlswede under the shower. And after 10 minutes showering then, I had it. And then the final result was that this was a fine talk, but this is not the way economical people are expressing themselves. And everything is okay, but this outed you as a true mathematician. No economical theories are made under the shower. And, and the marketing people in Simon, or these ones, they hate you for just this remark. I'm sorry. They said, we had an after session with, wie heißt der? Dein Doktorvater. Rosenmüller und von Spieltheorie war auch da.
Albert? Albert oder
Selten. Und die waren alle dabei und haben gesagt, du hast es, you have just crashed that. With a story of a shower, you never can come in V10. Okay, this is the second half. This was on my birthday, I know. 9th December 86. And this was my final. I had the feeling I never get a professorship, being strange always. So in the mathematical, people think I'm strange because of information theory, and the economical people think I'm strange at all. So and then I went to IBM next time. Last remark to the time in Bielefeld. I had all the relevant papers on my desk. So if I would have a next life with Rudolf Ahlswede, I would try to listen him better. So everything what was had a next paper something award, every famous paper was at a very early preprint on my desk. And he came always in and said, "This is the future, please read it now until lunch." And I said, "Please, I have to finish this paper." So Prussian, you know. And maybe I would have much more chaotic working sense now. So you see, in life there are the accidents and some chance is coming, and I'm just finishing my paper. That's not really good working mode, and I would love to start another 10 years with Rudolf Ahlswede, but making it different. And we never thought, he said that, so it was not unknown. He said always he's the grand world champion, so we knew all the time. But we underestimated this talent to know what excellence is, in some sense. Okay, some day, it was 86 also, or 87, no, 86. 86, my son was born in February, very hyperactive. He tended to sleep never. I had to get up 10 times every night to make something funny for him. It was so I had no chance to do any math, but it was quite good again. So I had my little baby there all the time. And I had a lot of good thoughts, so it's okay. Just walking around with a small baby all the time, month for month. Our daughter was 2 years at that time, and I had also problems with her, and we said, Monica does the daughter, and I try the son. And the following things I invented with my small baby at night. So another preprint came in. The result is not in terms of Rudolf Ahlswede trivial. So it's not really science. So then we found that we should solve it a different way, and then we said it's worth to think about the problem, not about the paper, and we had to give a kind of report for the publication of that. And you see F codes, and we tried something, and this was the big invention of my research life together with Rudolf Ahlswede. We said this is an interesting problem. The next morning when we came back into the office, we had both kind of unclear eyes and said this is a strange problem, because we feel this is a different answer than elsewhere, than usual, and it is strange. It's very strange. And then we said that for maybe 2 or 3 days in a row. It's very strange. And then we had kind of an answer. This was just lightning, that the number of code words in this code is doubly exponential. So the whole information theory is 2 to the n something, and this is 2 to the 2 to the n. So and then we had just this feeling it's very, very large. So it's larger than we are accustomed to. So it's strange. And then we had this idea it should be double exponential, and then we had of course in 10 seconds the natural conjecture that the Shannon constant C is also in this sentence. And this was a conjecture, and then we tried to prove that. This was hardest thing I ever did. So the first idea of the proof we had ready on the first morning. This was ready in the first 3 hours discussion. We knew how to prove, but to write it down technically needed half a year, say. I did it in the night with my baby. Okay. This is the first years of Shannon theory. You see, these are the kind of 40 important papers. 5 are from Rudolf Ahlswede there. So this speaks louder than words. Just look on the most important papers in information theory, and a lot of results are from him. Okay, funny talking. You I think Sasha can maybe, or Trixie can talk about years from car driving. So we tried always races from Trieste to Bielefeld, or from Spain to Bielefeld, something to Bielefeld. Very funny stories, who is the first there. So one funny story is that we tried, I think, from Hungary to Bielefeld, and one team forget to drive to Paderborn to make the left turn, and they ended in Hanover. Some are here. So this was a famous thing. Another famous thing is I had to go to my relatives to a very kind of maybe wedding. I don't know what it was, and I had to be at exactly at midnight in Frankfurt at the railway station, and we tried to make it finally. And then we had a funny discussion. I drove then. He had driven say 8 hours, and then the final 200-300 kilometers I tried to make. And he's faster. And he said, you know, your basic driving error? I said, I don't know. So if you pass a car, then you go to the right, and you have to save this time. And when you're in Frankfurt, we have passed 1,000 vehicles, and you come to the left lane and to the right lane, and that's you lose 10 minutes, and these 10 minutes will kill you. And I said in the rear, and I said there's Archimedes theorem says no, you are intuitively not right, and then we discussed the theorem of. You see, this is a mathematical explanation. So if you pass a car and you go to the left lane 50 meters. Then this is maybe the difference between the two lanes, from the left lane to the right lane, take maybe 5 meters, maybe 3, I don't know. And if you just compute that by a quadrat plus b quadrat, you see, then the difference between this line and this line is 16 centimeters. And if to Frankfurt, it's 150 meters. In total, and I tried to explain that to him, that he has an intuition error. This was a funny ride. And then he got me in the first minutes, in the last minutes of this fantastic ride. He got me nearly. I think he would have understood me. He said, "You are a Prussian, and I swear we have not to be there at midnight, but midnight plus 10." This was true, and I did my best to lie, but he was very he knew that I need 10 minutes more because I'm not so chaotic. So he would have got the train also without the 10 minutes, but not me.
But if you pass 1,000 cars and go left and right, it's twice as much.
Okay, but it doesn't matter. So okay. This is me from Oberwolfach. Professor Jakob has a lot of photographs. It is also Jula's photos from there, I think. The beer is very cheap there, so you can see. This is my only photo in the internet before 2000, I think. So if you have a history, then I have to stop somewhere. I think I left for IBM. So if you buy, we won the IEEE Prize Paper Award for this 2 to the N. This was the dream of all the researchers in our institute to win this prize. Rudolf Ahlswede was particularly proud that he's the only, I think the only human being to have it won twice with Imre. Twice! And I remember when you won the prize with him, 88 or 87, he came into my office and said, "It's gone." I said, "What is gone?" "Sorry, I won the prize with Imre." And I had the hope we will win the prize with this one. So I'm very happy now with Imre, very happy now, but sad for you, sorry, gone. And went out. So, and then I was then in IBM. At that time, 3 years. I left for IBM 87. By an accident, there was a master thesis student came with abstract from a newspaper, Frankfurter Allgemeine, that said IBM is looking for people making the future of the next millennium, something in the research center of Heidelberg, needs postdoc, something, English experience, something, and had a long list, and said for people with master thesis, there's nothing, doctor maybe, I don't know. That's for you, said the student, and then was at that time laid there for a week. And then I got just a sheet of paper from my desk and wrote by hand, "Hi IBM, I'm overqualified, 34 years old. Do you still reflect to take me?" And then I got a call to my wife next morning. "Please ask Gunter to send something reasonable." And we take him, and this was my history with IBM. So when we got many years later, nearly before Christmas, I got just a letter, "You have won the IEEE prize," without any comment, without any warning. So I had no just I had normal IBM working day, nearly before Christmas, and I said, "You have won." That was. In IBM, I said I think I should be IBM fellow at this time. They agreed somewhere, so because Richard Blahut was at that time IBM fellow. And I think when I won the prize, maybe you can make me a fellow too. So these four layers in bandwidth in salary above. And they agreed after some time to give me a director's salary. So so I profited a lot of times from late information theory. I followed the discussion. This is from '94. Is information theory dead? So I was a little bit sad. So is it? Some go so far to say that this is the formulation of the mathematician. I mean, information theory is dead, but doesn't dare to say that, and says, of course, some people go so far to say. That was I think Imre replied, the problems are mathematically still interesting, and we love to work in information theory. And then you can see the different behavior between engineers, maybe, or business managers and mathematicians. So for business management, a theory which gives no money is not interesting anymore. So there's a big difference. And okay, still exists. I'm still receiving this newsletter. I finish with graphics. This is new. This was not in my talk from '99, so this is a true addendum. This is from the Brain Center in Berlin. I have to a little bit explain that. The identification theory of which won the IEEE prize says you can in nearly no time decide on a yes or no question of something. This theorem in normal terms says you can look at the picture and you can say, is this picture lovely or not? This is just an instinctive reaction on the picture. And the algorithm says this is interesting. Or you can decide, is it my wife or not? So if you are maybe in a soccer stadium, you look at a lot of people, then you have the feeling, this is my husband or my wife. You know it. This is the only question which is interesting. There are lots of thousands of people, and you want just to have the information, is my wife there or not? Yes or no? Or if you look at the lottery numbers, you want to know, did I win 1 million, yes or no? And then you have just a glance and say, no. Okay? I give you another car example from mine. So this is for the theory. I went into the IBM garage and my car was not there. So the car is always in the same place because I'm coming 8 o'clock. Really? No? And then I go there and then my car was not there. Same story. Do you know what in this moment occurs in your body? So you go to and then you see it's not there. Then makes a flash in your body. You see, real shock. And then you make a second glance. Car is still not there. Then comes a second flash, weaker, a little bit weaker. But then the brain says maybe there is some danger. So first the flash, then the second flash, then the question, maybe there is something wrong. You begin to accept that there is a danger or something wrong. And then you have a third look on the car, it's still not there. And then your brain says, says this way, oh shit. And then and then says, okay, we use now the normal brain of business managers. It's like Fortran. You say, is this car mine? Yes, no, no. Is this car my car? No. Is this my car? No. Is this my car? No. Then the mathematician says in reversed order, is this my car? No. Is this my... Then I said, what is the next question? Maybe I have the wrong floor. I went in the next floor. Is this my car? Is this my car? Just plain Fortran. This is the left brain half. Okay? The flash is from the body. That's different brain. It's somewhere here, but feels like stomach. Where you, if you look in the paper and your stock is gone, and it's also flash. Okay? And then they say, oh, it's really my stock. Yeah, see? Yeah, then these are different brain things. And my observation is over long times, many years, that maybe the algorithm of Ahlswede Dueck for identification of information is in our body. That's the question. I think this is my major lightning in my career, but nobody believes. So you are here, you have to listen to me. So that's my belief. Do you know if you go to your door, and then you get try to get the key, and in this moment you get a flash, and you know for some vision that the key is on the desk at Bielefeld University. You have to go 20 kilometers back. So this is a flash. Next flash, if you try to look for my son Johannes, this one, they're hyperactive. And I had to care for him in the sand, playing in the sand. And of course I have a book with me or think about mathematics, and then you show up and then the sun is gone, really gone. And then flash, next flash, and they say, oh shit, and they say, is this my son? Is this my son? And then you get nervous because all the suns are looking equal. So. And I wondered all the time, because all cars, and if you are in this heavy emergency, then all cars and suns are looking very, very much equal. You are very nervous about that. If you are a mother, so even a father could feel that. And very often it was that my brain knew that Johannes had red clothes on. And my brain just did, my stomach is registering for just red. and in the moment there is no red color, then my brain knows somewhere, the brain is thinking in math, but the body knows red is gone and means alarm, sun is gone. And the solution was that my son just threw the jacket away. So that was the solution. The solution in the car is went to the telephone, I said, whom to call? And in this moment, the next flash, my wife and me changed the cars this day. And then I went back, and the car was exactly at the place. I stood before the car, in front of the car, but it was not the right color, because I'm thinking all the time as a mathematician, and I have a parallel universe in the stomach, which makes my life. Okay. And this is not really understood for mathematicians, and you should think about that. Okay. This is a graphics from a reader of my book on that. He said the hyperactive people have this notion. So this is normal people. This is like my wife. So if a danger is 20% there, then she knows it's 20% there. It's 50% there, then she knows 50%, because his brain, he's more thinking about this. Mathematicians, some have a different curve. Mine is starting there at that point and going to the next building. So I know 10 years before that we have a problem with the economy or something like that, or with finance, or that people are getting older, okay? Normal people. So I say since 10 years to my wife, please, our pension is not secure. And he said, wait until we have it. You see, that's normal people. And my son Johannes has this way, so if something is 20% there, he doesn't notice. Zero. The best example is, Johannes, go downstairs and get some water for the meal. And then he just runs around with no reaction. And then we have to say, Johannes, get mineral water from below. No reaction. And then I tell my wife always, you have to go beyond this curve. They say, Johannes! This is not allowed for a mother, because a mother likes Johannes to bring water with love. Not as an instruction, different, okay? Therefore, the mother cannot be listened by the own kids at all. So my wife stays with Johannes in this loudness and no reaction, and then she is sometimes desperate. And you have to say, Johannes! And he said, really? This is this flash? And he says, what's going on here? So aggressive? I said, I want to go. And then, of course, he says, why not Anna? My daughter. Why me? And then you have a struggle. And after 1 hour, I say, I really hate having wasted 1 hour struggling about a task which needs 10 seconds. And I said, no, we don't need that. Go by yourself. This way. Okay, this is the realization structure of hyperactive people, of ADS. This is from yeah. And I've thought a long time, and maybe Rudy has also this curve in some sense. And mathematicians have a curve from there to the other building. So and we do not understand impulsive people. And I can give this picture. I've thought a long time about these curves. And I've written 3-volume philosophy. This is Sense of Life, and this book, there's a title on true, right, and natural human beings. They have different curves. The right people are sitting in IBM management. The true people are here. And the natural ones are the salespeople or the impulsive people, or these ones who have flow. And so I clarified everything, and maybe if you have time for 1,300 pages, then maybe. So this is my, and I have always as a shining example what a natural human is Rudolf Ahlswede and my son, and some people in IBM. So I could not understand them, so really, and they are kind of lions or something. Okay, and in IBM, the salespeople are the only ones who can have a victory upon elephants. So a lion gets an elephant, kills him, and said, okay. And then he eats, and then he does nothing for 10 days because he's fine. And IBM goes to these people and say, we admire you yet that you got an elephant, but we want you to get an elephant every 10 seconds, please, not just every week. And so on. We have all these discussions on those people. So I've thought a long time ago, and I know then this would have changed my life with Rudolf Ahlswede a little bit. There is a key magic word to kind of aggressive people. If an aggressive one says, you finish that this day, then the magic word is, oi, 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 oi. Just smiling and say, oi, 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 oi. And then the aggressive people say, something wrong? And then the fight begins. And you have to lose this fight. That's very important. And then everything is fine. I had some bosses of that kind, very, very strong people. And the best result was go in at 8 o'clock before working and make some strange, that they have become angry. And then they are half an hour angry with you, and then you go to work, and then you can work all the day without any disturbances. And you have to make them angry if you have time. I learned that in management. And not in between or something like that, and then you can handle these people. So I have everything written down, every theory, read about that, and one key person was Woody all the time. So I learned a lot of him, from him. Thank you.